In Essay 5 of the Preemptive Mirror Framing series, I want to talk about spotting the pattern. By the time most people realize they've been caught in a web of manipulation, the narrative has already been hardened. But preemptive mirror framing can be recognized much earlier if we know what to listen for. This essay bridges theory and practice, revealing the linguistic fingerprints, behavioral cues, and situational markers that expose the tactic before it cements public perception. The first tell: accusation without evidence. The clearest early signal is an accusation delivered before any observable event. The accuser leads with conviction, not corroboration. Phrases like, "just wait, you'll see what they're planning," or "they're trying to cover something up," or "they always do this when they're guilty." At this stage, no proof exists. The purpose is to plant an assumption. Psychologically, this primes audiences through anchoring bias. The first claim becomes the mental reference point against which all later information is compared. Practical cue: when someone accuses another party in advance of wrongdoing that hasn't yet occurred, treat it as a narrative seed, not a fact. Next, the language of moral superiority. Preemptive accusers often speak from a position of performative virtue. Their tone signals moral clarity while concealing strategic deflection. Listen for statements that elevate self-righteousness over evidence, such as, "we're the only ones brave enough to call this out," or "they'll attack us because they can't handle the truth," or "anyone who disagrees is part of the problem." This is framing in moral terms rather than factual ones, shifting debate from what's true to who's good. Psychological note: framing theory shows that moralized language short-circuits analytical thought. Audiences decide who to believe before asking what to believe. Number 3, the timing trap. Accuse before being accused. The preemptive element functions like an emotional booby trap. The accuser moves first to occupy the high ground. Later, when their own misconduct emerges, they can shrug it off as retaliation. Example: a manager about to misuse company funds claims another department has been cooking the books. When questioned later, the manager says, "That's exactly what they said I'd say when I exposed them." Spot it early. Ask, what new information prompted this accusation now? If the timing seems arbitrary or oddly anticipatory, you may be witnessing narrative positioning, not moral courage. Next, emotional flooding and urgency. Manipulative framing thrives in emotional weather. Notice when accusations come with intense urgency. "You have to believe me right now before it's too late," paired with dramatic stakes. Neurologically, fear and outrage narrow attention. Once emotionally flooded, listeners stop testing claims for accuracy. Practical step: slow the tempo. Refuse to mirror their speed or tone. Calm pacing and clarifying questions, such as, "Can you show me what makes you believe that?" deactivate emotional hijacking. The 4 Ds: distraction, deflection, denial, defensiveness. After the initial accusation, watch for the 4 Ds pattern you identified earlier. Distraction: introducing new topics to divert scrutiny. Deflection: reframing critique as an attack. Denial: claiming ignorance or misinterpretation. Defensiveness: portraying inquiry as persecution. These moves protect the false frame. When used sequentially, they create an illusion of coherence. Each D buys time for the narrative to harden in memory. Next, social reinforcement and echo amplification. The tactic rarely stands alone. It's echoed and legitimized by loyalist supporters who repeat the preemptive narrative across platforms and conversations. In social media analysis, this forms a narrative propagation chain, a cluster of identical claims spreading faster than fact checks can keep up. When you see identical wording across unrelated sources, that's a sign of coordination, not coincidence. Real-world cue, sudden alignment of phrasing, same adjectives, same outrage, same enemy, within hours of an original accusation. Next, situational red flags. You're likely witnessing preemptive mirror framing when the accuser has a known vulnerability in the same moral domain they highlight. The accusation appears timed before an audit, election, review, or exposure. There's a pattern of using morality theatrically, press conferences, public declarations, leaked statements. And their audience reacts with immediate outrage, not inquiry. Number 8, how to test a claim without escalating conflict. Resisting the frame doesn't require confrontation. It requires precision. First, acknowledge emotion. I can see this issue feels serious. Second, request verification. Can we look at the specific evidence together? Number 3, document context. Keep notes or timestamps. Manipulators rewrite sequences later. And next, check neutrality. Ask a third party to describe what they've seen without leading questions. This calm procedural approach keeps the conversation grounded in verifiable reality. Next, early intervention as prevention. Once the preemptive frame circulates widely, rebuttal becomes exponentially harder. Communication studies on rumor control show that corrective information must arrive within the first exposure window, usually within 48 hours, to have lasting impact. That means recognizing and naming the tactic early. This seems like projection, or that sounds like a preemptive accusation, isn't just defensiveness, it's preventative. It signals to bystanders that you see the play before it unfolds. Next, the meta skill, pattern recognition. Over time, spotting preemptive mirror framing becomes less about memorizing symptoms and more about sensing incongruence. When the moral tone doesn't match the evidence, or when urgency replaces transparency. Pattern recognition grows from awareness. Once you see it clearly, the spell breaks. You stop reacting to the mirror and start observing the reflection. Conclusion, from reaction to discernment. Spotting the pattern is not cynicism, it's consciousness. The goal isn't to distrust everyone, but to withhold trust until alignment between word and action appears. Preemptive mirror framing thrives in the shadows of assumption and emotion. The moment it's recognized and named, its power dissolves. Awareness rebalances the conversation, and discernment replaces manipulation with meaning.